Sometimes cheap and expensive items are the same thing with the only difference being the brand name. What are some examples of this? In the UK, there was a news story about a man finding another brand of crisps, chips, in a multipack. This made national news. Edit. Now my highest ranked comment is about crisps. And for those asking, here is a story metro. Lol. That kind of thing happens all the time at the store I work at, though it's usually items in a case we receive from the warehouse. Like one time, we received a case of 12-count egg cartons, and 4 of them were the Target store brand. I don't think we've ever had that happen within a multipack that a customer bought, though. I used to work food packaging for Kroger. Roasted peanuts, dry oatmeal flavored or unflavored, cereal, chips. When we changed from store brand to branded item, we would stop the line and change the box and the package. The food is the exact same. Exact. Edit. For one thing, this thread was great to read. We all shared something today. Lol. For another, although I thought it would be self-evident, not every type of cereal, not every type of chips. Those of you who love your brand. Duck, yeah. I get it. Cascade all the way. It's better and no one is going to tell me different. But when we say there is no difference, we mean it. Food handlers unite. Serious question. Why were brand name foods being packaged by Kroger? Didn't they come from the cereal company or wherever already in their respective packaging? Sorry if I'm misunderstanding. I used to work for manufacturing machinery company. You'll be surprised how many major food and pet food producers make supermarket owned brands. Yep. Worked as a cleaner for a major UK bread brand. When I was a kid, loaves went down 3 different conveyors into our slicers, each conveyor ending in a different brand's packaging. One our own, and the other 2 being budget brands. Same bread, same recipe, baked on the same day in the same oven. Priced differently depending on packaging. ZZZ Quill is at least a 200% markup from Benadryl. The only active ingredient in ZZZ Quill is 25 mg of diphenhydramine, whereas Benadryl is also 25 mg of diphenhydramine. Or you can just buy the generic brand of 25 mg diphenhydramine and pay even less than for the pink Benadryl package. You guys should see the stuff we deal with in the medical field. I wanted to get a mesh metal glove to protect myself when using a saw during autopsies. Our medical supplier, Fisher Scientific, sold the hospital a medical grade chainmail glove for $300. They forgot to take the Baypro Shops tag off. It was a $12 glove for cleaning fish. Their name should have been a giveaway. Fisher Scientific. Champion does this so much. They have like cheap Champion and the more pricey one. Champion literally used to beaches and you'd get made fun of for wearing it, and now it's all hyped up, but you can still find a Champion shirt for less than $10. I have 3. Edit. Thanks for the likes guys. I woke up and just saw all this, and I didn't know it would blow up. I swear kids that wore New Balance shoes used to get the piss taken out of them as well. Kirkland brand. Costco brand. 1 egg. Bayer 81mg aspirin. $24. 99 for 365 tablets. Kirkland 81mg equivalent. $4. 99 for 365 tablets. Same active ingredient, big price difference. I work in marketing and did a ton of research on Costco. The Kirkland brand is known for their quality. In fact, they won't put their name on a product unless independent market and product research shows it meets or exceeds whatever the industry leader is. Toothbrushes, chocolate covered almonds, paper plates. Everything has to be better than the top rated brand or it isn't good enough for the Kirkland label. Edit. I don't work for Costco or Kirkland. I work for a marketing agency, and one of my clients was exploring white labeling their product for Kirkland. I was so impressed with Costco's commitment to quality. The deal fell through, but they made me a fan for life. Quick question. Is there a difference between cheap and expensive brands of bleach and rubbing alcohol? Yes, I'm aware of the recent news. No, this has nothing to do with that. I'm really just curious. No, though some are made from isopropyl alcohol and some from ethanol. But in any case, as long as you're comparing the same type, brand doesn't matter. Costco Kirkland brand is often white labeled brand name items. Kirkland might as well be a name brand. There are plenty of times where their quality has been better than the name brand. A lot of food on Aldi is, at least here, overproduction from name brands which is labeled differently. And one of the cheaper beer sorts here is entirely from overproduction, which has the fun effect that you will always get a Pils type beer, but depending where you brought it, it is very different. It's not overproduction. US Aldi and similar Aldi associated company Trader Joe's has their own label manufacturer agreements with multiple suppliers. So they aren't taking excess, they actually have specific Aldi runs of products that are then packaged under their name rather than the manufacturer name. Source: GF is a manufacturer supplier for Aldi. Edit: weird Trader Joe's relationship. Generic vs name brand medicine. All medicines will contain a place, product license, number, at least in EU regions, which is unique to each type of medication, but for the same medicines are identical regardless of packaging/branding. So when buying them, cross-check the place numbers and you'll often find that the cheap drugs are identical to the expensive ones. E.g. the product license for some paracetamols is PL 12063 regardless of whether it costs $1 or $10. I worked in a frozen waffle/pancake factory once, and the only difference between the name brand and off-brand frozen waffles and pancakes was a little metal arm flipping back and forth to ensure every other waffle/pancake of the same bakery/freezer line made it to the name brand packaging line or off-brand packaging line. Edit: it wasn't ducking eggs. Well, they're not identical then. One side's pancakes are nice and even, whereas the other side's pancakes are very odd. Supermarket spices cost twice as much for a third of the amount when compared to packets in shops for ethnic minorities. I grew up black in a very South Asian community, so the idea of paying $2.50 for a tiny bottle of Schwartz when a full bag is $89. Just no. Edit: so my most upvoted comment is just me being cheap. I kept buying my Indian spices at an international grocer and commented to an Indian coworker that the cost was insane and I would cook Indian more if the spices weren't insane. He laughed and said I should go to an Indian grocer. One day while picking up some Indian food, we went next door to the Indian grocer and nearly everything was half or a quarter of what I was paying, and they were larger packages. Same if not better quality for less cost. I don't know exact brands, but I would say anything identified as for men vs for women. I'm a female, and buy men's deodorant and razors. They're both cheaper and the same exact product, just black vs pink most of the time. Conversely, when I was buying an electric toothbrush, the exact same model in pink was $10 cheaper than the blue one. Same with my kettle actually, the pink was $5 cheaper than the blue. So I've got quite a nice pink collection coming on. Aquarium nerds will know this one. Silicone. Aquariums are usually held together with silicone, and silicone is just 100% silicone, so generally predictable product, no matter who makes it. Except, many brands for kitchen and bathroom ceiling have added chemicals to keep mildew from growing on the cured silicone. This is a big no-no for aquariums, basically poison that would kill your aquarium pets. So you gotta read the ingredients and information carefully to make sure it's not anti-mildew or anything dubious added. Or, you can pay double or triple for a pack of silicone with a big aquarium brand stamp. I used to work in a hardware store, and I was told that DAP makes both the cheap store brand silicone cork and the expensive DAP branded stuff. For the equivalent product, i.e. kitchen/bath cork, it was the same exact formula, but like you say, there are differences amongst the types of silicone, so don't just buy the cheapest product. Hydro Flask. You can get those bottles unbranded straight from China for just a few dollars. Edit 1. As several people mentioned, AliExpress is the place you can buy all these things. Edit 2. I understand people's concerns about buying from China, but I'll just say that my Hydro Flask clearly says made in China on it, designed in Bend, Oregon. This holds up to the story below of where Hydro Flask originated. Please don't confuse my answering of this question with advocacy of buying Chinese. There are plenty of reasons, written in the comments, to buy from Hydro Flask directly. Edit 3. Are there protections for companies that bring their patent to China to have it made? because I'm pretty sure the manufacturing company just makes more of them without the logo, and they truly are the exact same thing. Swell brand is another example. Although I just did a search for insulated water bottle and many things that have the Hydro Flask logo on them came up. That is not what I typically find. I typically find the exact bottle W/O the logo. Close bracket. Yeti is the same. I bought a tumbler on Amazon for $12 and one day I compared it to a Kawaka's Yeti tumbler and they were identical. The only difference we could find was his had Yeti stamped on it and mine had nothing. Even the lid fit on his actually fit better than the lid it came with. They were probably made in the same factory in China, just one got a stamp and thus cost 3x more. I was in a shop looking at laptop bags and there were two brands right next to each other that were exactly the same dimensions, color, materials, padding, everything. Except one was almost twice the price than the other. They need to change up their shelving strategy. I have worked in a pawn shop for 7 years now. We test everything that comes in, so I have heard every kind of headphone and speaker imaginable. One day I went to test a pair of cheap on Bluetooth earbuds. They sounded better than Beats earbuds. At the next meeting I blindfolded 5 employees and had them listen to those same 2 sets, same song, same volume, same phone, everything. They all agreed that the second option, the onset, sounded way better than the first set, the Beats. When the test was over they were astonished. Moral of the story is that brand name doesn't mean shoes. Something cheaper that can do the same thing will come along and might actually kick a. Moral of the story is that a brand name is just a logo on a sticker. At the end of the day, it just comes down to having a solid construction and liking the sound. Beats are a well-known joke in the audiophile community. Extremely expensive and horrendous quality. Great value dishwasher detergent and Cascade. GV is literally the same but more diluted. I won't skimp on Dawn though. Oh yes. Never skimp on Dawn. Dawn has no equal. A lot of clothing. Most of it is made in the same sweet shops in China/Bangladesh/wherever. The only difference is the name on the label. Also brands will make different quality stuff for sale in different stores. The Ralph Lauren clothes that sell at the high-end department store are not the same ones that you find at Marshall's, Kohl's, and Costco. Same at the outlets. Pint of paper. I used to work in a factory that cut the paper down to size. We would load up the packaging material for say Staples, do our run of that, then switch packaging to the generic packaging without switching the bulk paper out. The plain white package holds literally the same as Staples brand, but the brand name is expensive. If we're talking plain generic printer/copy paper, sure. Beyond that, there are significant differences in paper. Any designers that have worked in print, and especially pressmen, know this. I'll tell you one example it isn't. Aureus. I'm an avid generic product user. I stay away from brand names where possible. But man, if Aureus only tastes like Aureus. Also, Pop-Tarts. When I finally started making okay money, I had the great idea of shopping at nicer stores than Walmart. My family would always tell me I needed to shop at Fredmeer, it's so much better quality items. I'm in the clothes section at Fredmeer looking at socks and whatnot. I see a pack of Fruit of the Loom. $18.99, the exact same kind I was buying at Walmart for $8.99. Hanes $22, Walmart $12. I was in shock. Why would I shop here? It's the same crap just marked up. I'm not trying to hype a Walmart, I know they are a terrible company. But at least you're not getting charged $10 plus more for the same low quality stuff. They are probably getting the stuff from the exact same supplier at that. Be careful, though. No clue about clothing, but for electronics and tools Walmart has contracts where they can use the same nameplates of items sold in other stores yet have them specifically made with less quality to be cheaper for Walmart only. Years ago I was on a similar thread and found that melamine sponges are the same thing as Mr. Clean Magic erasers. So I hopped on AliExpress and bought 300 of them for a few bucks at 3 AM. I totally forgot that I'd done it until they showed up 6 weeks later. My wife was really confused. They do work great though and now we'll never run out. That's funny. I still have at least half a box of those 300 count generic magic erasers I bought a few years ago. but while they do the job, the ones I bought don't last nearly as long as the Mr. Clean brand. They're still both melamine foam. A lot of makeup and skincare. They're owned by the same umbrella companies and are created in the same labs. Mostly the main difference is in terms of packaging. 180 plus brands are owned by just 7 companies: Estee Lauder companies, L'Oreal, Unilever, Procter & Gamble, Shiseido, Johnson & Johnson, and Coty. From what I understand, they are created in the same labs, but don't typically have the same formula. I don't think most brands, indie or high-end, would be okay with that. Canadian no-name brand no-name chips, no-name pop, no-name hot cocoa powder. No-name is a goddamn treasure. Their pizza pockets are great too. I've literally never had anything bad come out of a no-name box. Dasani water is just bottled tap water. Most bottled water is, really. In the UK they tried to release Dasani in news that it was just bottled tap spread quick. The release failed miserably. Despite that, and the revelation that most of the waters in the store are this way, other bottled water sells fine. It's actually a fascinating story. Tom Scott has a video on this. Duracell and Walgreens brand batteries are the same. Source: I used to work for Duracell. Not arguing here, but what about all those battery tests which include both brands? Here's an example from NBC 12 has both Walgreens and Duracell. The Duracell lasted in 1 hour 17 minutes longer than the Walgreens brand. Even on Consumer Reports, the Duracell alkaline is rated 80, while the Walgreens is rated 71. What do you think that is attributed to? The difference in lifespan for the batteries? Is Duracell doing anything different in the process for the batteries they make for Walgreens? Saw it on YouTube. They showed a part of a Mini Cooper that costs 350 plus €. The exact same part was sold by Peugeot for only €70. Bosch is a great example of this. Many parts on German cars are made by Bosch, then stamped with a BMW or Mercedes logo and resold for twice the price. Same with a number of other German parts manufacturers. Always look up the OEM part manufacturer for whatever part you need, because it's literally the exact same thing, just cheaper because you're cutting out the middleman. Games Workshop shade paints. They are basically just normal oil paints that is extremely thinned down, that is put into a pot and put the Citadel name on it for the brand name, so to justify its expensive price, you will have to pry that null oil from my cold, dead and poor hands. In Aldi you can get a 12 pack of Okie Dokies for the same price as a 6 pack of Hunky Dories. Being from the US I'm unaware of what these are, but just from the name I want some. Retired truck driver here. I often picked up cans of soup for various big retailers. I'll be picking up generic and name branded the same MFG plant. Same soup, same cans, just a different label wrapped around them. Brands like Campbell's will produce generic soup right alongside their own brand. The proportions will be a bit different, but the same plant will produce the same soup for 3 or 4 different off-brands as well as their own. At least Campbell's changes up their formula a bit. Meat packers don't. A meat packer will produce their own brand, plus 1 or 2 off-brands, but it's exactly the same meat, from the same plant, processed exactly the same way. No variation whatsoever. The only difference coming from a meat packing plant is the shipping and handling instructions. Some brands insist the meat not be frozen, others want it frozen solid as a rock. But the worst offenders is the organic industry. The definition of organic in the US allows for stuff that is definitely not anyone's idea of organic. Organic produce will tend to be smaller than its non-organic counterpart, and often with natural blemishes you normally don't see on regular produce. If it looks exactly like the non-organic counterpart, it's probably not really organic at all. Big telltale is, if it's the same size. You don't dump a ton of pesticide and fertilizer on produce and not get bigger produce. But the worst offenders is the organic industry. The definition of organic in the US allows for stuff that is definitely not anyone's idea of organic. This is because of the way the FDA has regulated the term. Organic simply refers to growing practices that don't use GM genetically engineered crops or specific class of herbicides. Edited for clarity. A lot of no-name or President's Choice here in Canada is just as good, if not better than name brand food items. PC white cheddar mac and cheese is far superior to Kraft. A lot of TV and monitors use the same panels. There are only like 4 manufacturers of OLED panels. If you do your research, you can get a really good picture for a reasonable price. Half true. For TVs, technically LG makes all the OLED panels, but the picture processing tech is vastly different from LG vs Sony vs etc. Each brands also calibrate their screen differently. LCD LED panels are vastly different between each brands and within each brands. That's why they have different percent of color spectrum, peak brightness, different viewing angles, local dimming. Most baseline TVs have hit a technical minimum, so they all look pretty decent. However, I wouldn't compare LG C9 or Samsung Q90 with a Target $400 TV. I know this quite the answer you want, but Dollar Tree has some of the best plastic slinkies and the best pregnancy tests. I used to work in a supermarket. Those Ferrero Raffaello coconut balls were ducking expensive. There were cheaper brands that literally tasted the same. Also, Mount Chocolate were more expensive than the Bounty. I don't know why, but they tasted the same to me. My supervisor always insisted on putting cheaper brands near the expensive ones. His logic: they are the same kind of product, so they should be found in the place. What would usually happen is people would take the cheaper brands and the expensive ones would just expire on the shelves. Raffaello is the one and only thing that one didn't get bad through years and 2 has no competition. Emo. Every chocolate or candy we loved during childhood is such a disappointment, but Raffaello, always the same ball of perfection. Sparkling water. Why is LaCroix so expensive? Liquor. Get that Kirkland signature vodka. It's apparently from the same factory as Grey Goose. Every time this thread comes up, someone inevitably brings up Kirkland vodka and Grey Goose. I've got a list of equivalents from this thread that came up sometime last spring. What I find interesting is that nobody really knows the correlation between Kirkland and Grey Goose. One theory says that Kirkland flat out is Grey Goose, but B stock that's not worthy of the GG name. A second common theory says that GG is distilled 7 times and Kirkland only 5. And a third common theory is that Kirkland bought out an old GG still house to produce their vodka in. It's interesting to me that this is the one Kirkland product that doesn't have a confirmed real-world equivalent. Computers. Sure, you can get the fancy $1,500 Alien Dude PC with all the gadgets and gizmos, but a $200 HP laptop from Walmart could do everything it could do, and more. Just kidding. I just felt like pissing people off who didn't read this far. Paying $1,500 for an Alienware PC is just dumb anyway, lol. My grandfather owned a textiles company, and he sold the exact same shirts to Walmart to be sold for $60. Flour. The factor is literally just change the bags. Does King Arthur flour do this? UK. My dad works for Hovis Bread Factory, and out of the supermarket home brands are made by named brands. I believe Hovis used to make M&S bread. M&S has genuinely good quality stuff though. Drive. Martins makes boots for them just without the tag. 4 years Payless Shoes, cheap discount chain that went bankrupt in 2017, were made in the same Chinese factories as Nike and Reebok, using most of the same materials, but made with cheaper adhesives and materials. Beats vs Skullcandy. In fact, some tests have shown Skullcandy to come out on top, they just don't look as slick. They're both fashion brands, though, unlike Sennheiser, etc. who have an interest in audio over styling. Milk. I was in a Walmart looking at milk and an old man stopped me. He said he retired from the dairy industry. He told me the same milk plant, from the same cows, fills different colored cartons, from the same batch. He tapped his nose and winked and said, "It's all the same cheese." The checkout lady did this for me. I was buying Prairie Farms, and she stopped me to let me know the store brand was owned by same company and filled at the same time. Since I'm QC chemist, I immediately switched to the cheaper. I know in our plant that means same material, different label. A lot of people say cereal, but that's not always true. As someone who eats a lot of cereal, store brand of some types of cereal are of significantly lower quality. Not all, but some. Agreed. Store brand Cheerios are completely inedible. Helicopters. Don't buy one if it has an ejector seat. I'll just throw this in their lube. If you use a lot of lube, or would just rather never have to buy it again, then go search for a bottle of J-Lube or K-Lube. K-Lube is safest as it doesn't contain sugar, which would give any would-be lubettes an early yeast infection. Forget what its intended purpose is. Getting your arm or arms inside cows to help with delivery. This chiz works. It comes in a moderate sized bottle of white powder. All you have to do is add water. Sprinkle it on a toy, wet your hand, and give the toy a once over, and you're good to go. Dump a bunch in a cup or bottle, and add some water. Stir the chiz out of it, and keep it on standby, whatever you need. The more water you add, the thinner it will be. The less water you add, the thicker and stringier it'll be, if that matters to you. Heads up, this stuff is insane. If you're looking to have fun in the shower or bathtub, be very ducking careful. Whatever it gets on will be cartoonishly slippery, ceramic very much included. It takes a bit of time to wash off. Water will do it just fine, it just takes a bit, but that also means you likely won't have to reapply. One bottle is like $50 CAD, and I can't see myself ever running out. I don't know how this lube tastes, if that's a factor. I imagine terrible, since taste has nothing to do with what it's meant for. Also, another pro tip: any numbing lube is chiz and dangerous. I know this part has nothing to do with the original posted question, but while we're on the topic of lube, I thought I'd throw it in. Pain is your body's way of telling you something is wrong. You can be tough and push through it, but that doesn't mean you're not hurting yourself, which might set you up for more injuries later. Numbing does not help this in the least. All it does is take away your body's ability to tell you that you're hurting it, and you might be hurting it a lot more than you realize. Any lube with a gimmick is not a great lube nor a good idea. Cooling / tingling / heating / glow in the dark / nanobits, etc. To reiterate, J-Lube for bud stuff, dudes not ladies just to be safe, and K-Lube for putting just about anything anywhere in anyone. I bought the Family Dollar coffee the other day. The aroma seal said Folgers, and it had Folgers imprinted on the side. Girl Scout cookies. I have noticed that some grocery stores carry cookies with different names, maybe different shapes, but parallel to the Girl Scout cookies. From a green box of chocolate mint cookies to a yellow box of shortbread cookies with lemon icing. Probably the Girl Scout Mafia will come after me for this post. Deleted. While this is true in general, nowadays cars will share a platform or parts of a platform. The things that make them different are interior materials and options. Sometimes even the dealership experience is different, based on the brand. Cadillac vs Chevy, for example. Leica cameras are mostly made by Panasonic. Aside from the optics, the same camera will appear in both of their lines. The differences are cosmetic. There might be minor functional changes, but a Panasonic LX100 II costs around $500. The Leica equivalent, Deluxe 7, is over $1,000. Edit: I should clarify. Leica make the optics, Panasonic make the gubbins. So yes, you're getting those lovely Leica optics for half the price. I still use an LX3 as my main camera, and it's still fantastic. Wouldn't the optics in a camera being different mean that the quality is not the same though? HDMI cables were a huge offender of this back when they were first introduced. They found all sorts of ways to justify paying over $100 for 5 feet of cable. But in reality, it's not about quality, but about customer manipulation. Let's say you see 3 HDMI cables on the shelf. First one is just wound and zip-tied, marked $5. The second is $25, and it's in a nice paper box with some snazzy graphics on it. Third one is $120, has a thick box with dark maroon and gold graphics, looks ornate and fancy. The consumer is going to think, well, I don't want something that looks cheap and will probably break after a week of use, so they skip the $5 cable. But then they look at the $120 cable. They figure, aha, I'm no fool, I know a ripoff when I see it. This is all just fancy packaging. So they skip the $120 cable. They happily choose the $25 cable, believing they have outwitted those clever marketing folks at the HDMI cable factory, and returns home with their smart, sensible purchase thinking they won. But they haven't. The cables are all the same. They just spent $20 more for a simple paper box. They were tricked by the middle option product, deceived into thinking it has any justifiable value over the cheaper one simply because it was placed next to an absurdly overpriced version. Fortunately, people have wised up to this practice, and thanks to user reviews on online retailers, it's much harder to pull this scam. But back in the mid-2000s, when HDMI cables first started rolling out, you had some pretty awful offenders out there, and even more unfortunate, a lot of our I know full consumers thinking they were seeing right through it. The thing is, and me will work or wonk. Since it's digital it won't change the signal quality like in an analog cable. Don't cheapen on very long cables thought. Trash is available and free to the public, so I don't understand why someone would go and willingly pay for Cardi B's music. They're paying for the brand. Yogurt. I like to make my own. Make of that what you will. Nestle water. Nestle water often is from third world countries with water shortage. At least back in the mid-90s, when I worked in a meat processing factory, the only difference between Marks and Spencer sliced meat and the rest of the country was we switched out the labels and had slightly stricter quality control. It all came from the same animal and was processed on the same production line. Stricter quality control is a big one, dude. Car batteries. Same car battery from Maserati Quattroporte can be found in some Fiats for price. A lot of buttons and switches found in Maseratis can also be found in the Dodge Dart. I like to joke I have like 0.1% of Maserati. All this version of everything. But most importantly, the hula hoops, because if they're not from the same factory then I'm not British. And I'm British. Anything marketed as for women, or often for men, and oddly, when it comes to tools, often anything with a pro on it is bullshit. Canned vegetables, often the only thing that changes in the production line is the label. Commodities can be this way. Soda can be this way. On the flip side, I feel outlet malls have items made just for the discount outlet lines of fashion. I work for a Nigella distributor. Almost all designer Wrigley's are made from just a handful of manufacturers that also make the no-name cheap ones. The only manufacturing difference between the $20 frames and lenses and the $1,000 ones is the label put on at the end. Luxottica rules them all. For me, it's big brand cereal compared to store brand cereal. In my opinion, they taste exactly the same, so I buy the store brand to save $2. Or in some cases the store brand tastes better than big brand. I like them both, but they absolutely do not taste the same. Deleted. I loved original Gay Energy, Superpower. They ruined when they added coconut flavor. People confusing made in the same factory with exactly the same. Exactly, same product but different QC. The quality control and reputation that they'll make things right if not is exactly what you're paying for. Some drugs, like paracetamol, ibuprofen, aspirin etc. Dafec, it's pricey. Those drugs I know don't even have that much differences in price for different brands. Any HDMI cable, they're all the same. It's literally not possible for it to vary in audio or visual quality unless it's damaged. The sole determiner or determiners of quality are the settings and specs of the input and output devices. Edit, I was slightly wrong. There are such thing as 1, 4 and 2. 0 cables, the difference being 1. 4 supports 4K video up to 30 FPS. 2. 0 supports 4K video up to 60 FPS. But, within those respective categories, if you have 1 2. 0 cable that's $5 at a garage sale, and 1 that's $50, but it's ultra high speed gold plated monster cable, they're identical. All 2. 0 cables are the same, all 1. 4 cables are the same. And it's kind of moot point anyway, because the top listing for a 2. 0 cable on Amazon is cheaper than the top listing for a 1. 4 cable anyway. They barely differ in price. Please don't say every HDMI cable is the same if you don't want to explain to people why they can't output 4K 60 FPS out of their cheap HDMI 1. 4 cable. Trader Joe's branded herbal teas are made and packaged by Celestial Seasonings. Source: took a tour of their facility in Boulder a year or two ago. Watched Trader Joe boxes going down the Eamley line, which was also explained to us by the tour guide. Also, Europeans get more herbal tea bags because you don't mess with Europeans and their tea. Looking at you, England. So they stack them vertically instead of laying them flat like most celestial boxes are. Anything Kirkland. Costco's name brand. They buy rights to private label products and slap a Kirkland logo on it. One confirmed brand is their vodka, which is produced by Grey Goose. It's the exact same thing as the name brand, but is substantially cheaper. In my market, a bottle of Kirkland vodka goes for $20 for a 1.5 liter bottle. Cars, Skoda VW and Citav model, that is the same, but the badges are the only difference. Skoda Citigo, West Virginia up. Seat MI. They have different entertainment systems and interior trims, but the car is essentially the same. I think an easy way to see this is when you see a product recall and it affects so many brands of the same item. Examples that I can think of include peanut butter and car airbags. Oh my, you watched until the end? That's fucking awesome, dude. Thanks for watching.